What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about OnyxCoin today, XCN. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. I am going to be a bit quieter right now, just for personal reasons. I got to be a little quiet tonight, so that's okay. We're looking at this here. Bitcoin has dropped a little bit to start off the day, hasn't it? Definitely showing like it wants to, showing its hand like it wants to move to the downside. Volume is picking up as we're moving down. We'll see how that goes. Onyx coin here. I don't know why I have two Onyx coins. Well, that's fine though. Two's better than one, right? 200 million is better than 100 million. We're at about 20982 right now, and I am under the impression that we could move up to that 1.2 cent area. There's a couple of things that I want to see, and this gets me kind of excited, but not too excited, right? We haven't done anything that's worth being exciting yet, but we might. We might from a low to a high. And what I'm talking about right now is not necessarily that this is the low. Okay, it could be the low. We've theorized it, right? We've made the call, but also very clearly said that it could not be the low. It's completely possible that we could see 0077, 00738, somewhere in that area there. It's very common when moving your way down in this structured manner that you have, right? Low here, high there, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs throughout the whole damn way down. It's very common when you get to your 1272 to the 1618 area, especially when you hit the 1618 area, to pull back to the 886 100 area as resistance before working your way lower. Okay, and that's exactly what we've done so far, right? This is actually a picture perfect kind of snap back to the areas of resistance that you would expect to go when working your way lower in the extension. Okay, the extension, the lower part right here, right? From here to there. Hope it's clear. So what do we do to combat this? Well, we do things differently than what we've done throughout this whole fib range. Now, I will say this fib range on a daily basis is not as significant as some of the more prominent fib ranges that we have to deal with. Right, it's rather small. So just understand that it's not the most significant fib range out there, but it does seem to be respected. There's a lot of these key areas that seem to be respected on the way down, on the way up, and we'll see if we can turn this boat around. Right, there's a couple of things that we need to do first. When you find resistance at the 886 to the 100 level, and you're anticipating that you go lower than the last area that you found support at, right? That's kind of the progression that you would expect. You would essentially not, if you're expecting this, what you would not want to see is support on the 1272 or the 1414. In other words, if you want this to be the low, if you do want to progress higher and you want to change the kind of trend here, you want to find support at this area or at this area. Now we haven't actually hit the 1272. That's at 00954. And the low that we've seen so far on this day is 00961. We could still see that. We could still go down there. We could go even a little bit lower. But ideally, we would find support somewhere above this low here, and ideally at one of these fib areas here. Even if we found support here, even if this was our next kind of higher low per se, it's totally fine. We don't have to interact at this level, and in fact, all we have to do, quote unquote, that we need to do to validate the notion that we are turning the tide here, is we need to get above this high, and not just get above it, but close above it. If we wick above it without actually closing above it on a 4-hour basis, that's not convincing, right? So what we're looking for essentially is a close now that is above 0.1097. That's 1.097 cents. Okay, if you can do that on a ideally multi 4-hour basis, 2 4-hour candles in a row, a daily closing basis, or a higher time frame, but probably one of those would come first. You do that, it's looking really good. Why is it looking good? Because we're changing the productivity from the downside to the upside. We're finding a low, we're finding a higher low, and then a higher high, hopefully based off the fibs. Now this next high could come in at the 786. It could go all the way up to the golden ratio. It could go higher. Anything and everything in between is possible. But after we find support at one of these areas, if we're looking to go higher, the next step would be to close above the golden ratio. And this is why 1.2 cents, we've been talking about it, we've been focusing on it a lot. It's very relative to this fib range, this most kind of significant pivot we've had other than this one here that we're extending out of, right? This is the move that we're playing off of here. Closing above that golden ratio there is key in providing this to be a low. Now it's not the ultimate gatekeeper, it's not the final say, it doesn't validate it 100%. Anything can happen, but it does open up the opportunities to go higher. Normally, whenever you see extensions take place and especially the 1618, and you close, not wick, if you come all the way up here to 1.2 cents, that's fun, that's fine, and it's encouraged. Sure, we could still drop down, find a double bottom, a slightly higher low maybe, or even a lower low. It's still all on the table, right? If I expect Bitcoin, and I do, to drop about 12% or so, even from this golden ratio up here, XCN could drop 20%. It could drop 23%. It could drop over 30%, right? We've seen these kind of dynamics that play with XCN and Bitcoin before, so it doesn't absolve us strictly just going up to this golden ratio. It doesn't absolve us of this being the low, or absolve us of going lower than that low there, is probably how I should have said that. But if we close above it, it really starts to look good. At this point, the next target area and the final target area that we'd have to look forward to is the 236, which is all the way up at about 1.375 cents. If we can close above there on a daily basis, on a multi 4-hour basis, if we can do that, it's time to start celebrating, you guys. Because at that point, I think it is completely validating that this is the low. I think it's very called for at that point, 1.375 cents. So let's call it 1.8 cents just to round it out, right? If we were to go all the way back down to this low, that calls for a move that's essentially 40% or more. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Not with what we have left in Bitcoin and the rest of crypto. And I know there's people out there who are like, if Bitcoin's dropping, which it is right now, how can you say that XCN, how could you even hope that XCN is going to go up? Well, just in the simple aspect of volatility, just in the simple aspect that XCN has moved down a lot. It's actually moved down for 9 weeks in a row, right? Literally from the high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row. And Bitcoin has not, I don't think it's moved down for 9 weeks in a row, right? It's had volatility. It's had some volatility. So essentially, XCN might have had enough already. It's very uncommon that an altcoin moves up while Bitcoin's moving down. It's very uncommon, and that's not necessarily what I'm calling for. But in this in-between phase where Bitcoin might be lagging, it might be consolidating in its own, slowly bleeding down, whatever, before the big drop comes, if XCN can move up to these target areas that we're talking about, then likely what happens whenever Bitcoin drops is that XCN will drop more, right? That's the common thing. That's the expectation. But if it's at higher prices and then it drops more than Bitcoin, it even then would still form a higher low, right? That's why the 236 is a big deal in itself, right? Taking Bitcoin out of the equation, the 236 on any fib is a big deal to kind of put the nail in the coffin, as it were, for any kind of trend to be over, whether it's an upside trend or a downside trend. In this case, low to high makes it a downside trend, right? So at least basing it off the extensions there. First things first, we need to validate this 1272 area or 1414 area as support. How do we do that? Well, the only way to really do that is obviously you find support here, so you have a higher low. It looks like that, right? And then you have to get above that high. We get above that high, it validates this as a low. It has to be that simple, that plain. That's basically what it is, because we're too damn close here. Anything can happen. We need to see that, right? And ideally, not a wick above this line, but a close above this line here. A close above like 1.1 cents, essentially. If we can get above 1.2 cents, you guys, on the golden ratio, that's very convincing. And at that point, if we get up to the 1.38 cent area, if we can, which is $0.0138, if we can get up there and close above there, it's undeniable at that point that we have the low. I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic, and I'm hopeful that this could be the low. I don't even like the word hopeful, but I'm under that impression that it really could be the low. But that can all change. If we do come down and we see this golden ratio, there is a scenario where Bitcoin drops 12% and XCN from here only drops, 14%. But if Bitcoin drops 12%, I don't really see that happening. Likely would go a little bit lower. And just below this line, just below the golden ratio here, is the base of this, the land of the rising sun, as we've coined it, right here. Down, I think it's, let me get specific, 0.0082. It's right below the golden ratio. It's kind of in an area that you wouldn't make sense to go to. You could kind of fake out in the sense like you wick down here and then you close above the golden ratio. That's fine, but likely a break below this orange line would lead to nothing less than a 1886 to 200 area. We would forsake the land of the rising sun. All of our altars to Justin Sun would go in the garbage. And I don't want to see that. I've worked really hard on my altar. I say hi to it every single morning. You know what I mean? I just don't want, I want this silly little goofy coined term that we have here at the land of the rising sun. I want it to hold us up, but Reality is, if we go down below 00844, we're probably going to go to 0077, 0074, somewhere in that area. And if Bitcoin drops 13% or 12% from here, I think Onyx Coin dropping 22% to about 25% sounds about appropriate. So that's an area that we should be aware of as well. It's very exciting, the notion that this could be the low, the real low, the actual low that sends us up to higher prices, right? It's very exciting to see the prospects that come after that. But patience is something that we need to hone right now. Be patient. Just because just because it's been a long time coming, just because we've moved down for 9 weeks straight, does not mean that as soon as we're ready to move up, that it looks like this. Okay? That's not what it means. It can take time. It could be most of April that we're figuring ourselves out, right? And maybe it looks like this. Maybe it's rather erratic at first, and we just kind of do this for a good bit of April, come down, and it looks like we're forming some kind of double bottom overall, where we scare people, we make them think that we're going lower, stuff like that. And then by the end of the month, we're really starting to come up. It could be maybe even going into May that we really start to show some life. Just because the notion here is that this could be the low, and we haven't validated that yet at all. We have a lot of steps to go before that happens. Doesn't mean that it's time to get excited for the roof just yet to be blown off. It could. This thing does like to move up at a very fast pace, but patience right now, right? For the last since March 11th, I've been asking people to stay their emotions when it comes to panic selling, when it comes to trying to be greedy and sell here and buy here, right? Just buy more, not financial advice, just buy more or hold, right? The emotions of greed and fear are what we've been trying to combat. Now what you need to combat is boredom. Probably boredom and a little bit of excitement. Combat your boredom, combat your excitement. Just stay even keel, or at least at the very least, if you can't control those emotions, just don't act on them. Because in a matter of time, it could be weeks from now, it might be sometime by the end of this month, or likely even going into May. It'll probably be May that we're above this high. May and June are going to bring out some very phenomenal prices, some dramatically higher prices than we're at now. And we could start to see that growth. I'm not saying that it has to be in May or June. We could see some phenomenal growth starting out this month and ending this month. It could happen. But I would expect more so that what we do is we kind of figure ourselves out first. And it might look like this. It might look like this, and like whatever. It could be a nice kind of U up. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I don't assume that April will be the month that we get above this high, or if it is, we might just be barely above that high, right? May and June are the months that I really think we're going to start to run. If you're thinking that this move will be like the last one, it could be. And I think that it will be in the sense of, oh no, what happened here? The Wi-Fi's still on. The camera disconnected. That's so weird. But everything's fine. Huh. That's weird. We're going to try this real quick. Hold on. Just turn it off and then turn it back on, maybe. That's the first time that I've had to deal with that, but I think it didn't boot me off, so it's just doing something weird this time. Oh, it was Ethereum. Ethereum closed down. Interesting. The Ethereum webcam, it actually closed down. I've been theorizing that Ethereum might have some issues, man. But hold on here. Let's just get this. I think that should be good. Okay, so if we're looking at it here, where was I? I totally forget where I was, but long story short, I think that May and June will be phenomenal. Oh yeah, I was talking about how fast it moves. I think that it'll be similar in the sense of overall growth. I think it will be similar in the sense of overall growth, but I don't think that it'll be the same in the sense of overall speed, right? The same amount of growth here from this low to that high, if this is a bull flag, and I think that it is, and it performs like an ideal bull flag would perform, that would take us to around probably right there around 17 cents to 18 cents, right? Which Coinbase doesn't show, but that is the all-time high area of OnyxCoin. Now, bull flags are ideas. We might stop right there at that idea. We could fall short of that idea, or maybe, just maybe, we'll exceed the limits of that idea and we'll see higher prices. I'm thinking that we will see higher prices. I'm thinking that the notion of all this bearishness, all this time, there's so many people who were looking at XCN who weren't even aware of this coin until it pumped, right? And week after week, day after day, it was just climbing the ranks on the altcoin market cap and gaining dominance, crypto bubbles and stuff like that. I would see people with much bigger channels than I have talking about the markets, looking at crypto bubbles. XCN would be the biggest bubble growing, and they wouldn't even talk about it because they didn't know about it, right? And that's how people are when they see coins that pump. they don't care. They don't care to look into it because either they're jealous that something's pumping that they're not holding, or they don't know anything about it, so they're not going to make a comment on it, and that's fine. But whenever you see something pump, and I guarantee you, even if they didn't say anything, they've seen it pump, and it drops down this much, and it's at prior areas of support in a consolidation phase, it might put the idea in people's heads that it's a good time to buy, at least speculatively. All the haters, all the tourists that sold out already, and that have cursed the name of XCN, they're all going to be coming back, and they're all going to want some. They're going to want a piece of the action because they're all going to start to come around the idea that XCN is going to go to these prices that we've long been expecting and beyond. Right? This thing has a lot of momentum. It's going to, I think, lead the way on this next turn up in the cycle. I really do think, guys, that we might have found the golden goose whenever it comes to XCN. And I know that it's been a long time coming, but it might take longer, right? 2 weeks is not what I expect for this move to take. If it happens in 2 weeks, if it happens in 3 weeks, great. I would love that. That'd be phenomenal. At that rate, we might not go above 30 cents because a lot of those targets were based on Bitcoin versus XCN's price, and Bitcoin being at a higher price, right? If XCN moves up in 2 or 3 weeks and it's all the way up here, I can bet one thing: Bitcoin probably won't be at this price, but it's probably not going to be above 100K in 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, maybe, but but if that's the case, that the prices would come down. I'm kind of curious, actually. Let's just do this real quick. Let's just run it on the note that XCN performs very similar to how it did last time. It moves up and it tops off on its own. It kind of tops off, I guess here it topped off on the same time as Bitcoin, but let's say it tops off before Bitcoin. Okay, let's just run it with this kind of notion here. I hope this makes sense what I'm trying to do here. Looking at the daily time frame, we are going to, no, maybe the weekly time frame. I'm sorry. Yes, the weekly time frame. We're going to look at this high here to this low here versus Bitcoin, and assume that you probably go above the 786. Let's assume that you do go to this base range, but I'll even take it a step further. Let's go even lower than that. Let's say we go all the way up here, right? And I'll give you a brief explanation as to why I think this is going to happen. You put a price right here, you put the line right here above the, or right at that all-time high. You found resistance right at the base of this range. Whenever we move up, there's no significance other than here, but I don't think that we're going to break out of this bull flag versus Bitcoin just to stop here. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that we will continue. We could, but I doubt that we do. This is the nearest base range that I can find. So that's all the way at 502. Let's just say 502, kind of at the base of this wick area, base of this range on a closing basis, 502, okay? Google calculator. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, you guys. Thank you all for being here. We're almost done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 502. Let's say XCN moves up in a phenomenal fashion. This is USD. This is XCN versus Bitcoin, okay? This is the price target for XCN versus Bitcoin. We're trying to determine what the price target would be if XCN moved up similarly to as it did last time. Maybe it's a two-week period, 3-week period. Maybe it's a 4-week period. But by the end of April, I don't suspect, I shouldn't say that. In a 4-week period from now, I don't know if Bitcoin will be at new all-time highs. I think it'll be close, but it might not be there. But let's just say 2 to 3 weeks from now, Bitcoin's probably found its low. It's probably going to find its low either today or tomorrow, honestly. And it's recovering. It's moving up. We're not quite above 100K, but we're reaching for it. Let's say we're only at $100,000 by the time XCN tops off. What would that price be? 100K times 502 on the Bitcoin pair here, assuming that XCN moves up faster, just like it did last time, and I'm assuming that it doesn't. That's why I think that XCN will top off at higher prices, because I think it'll top off when Bitcoin tops off, and where I think Bitcoin's going to top off is a lot higher than 100K. But let's just see what that price is. That's 20 cents in itself, right? 20 cents in itself. And I thought it was 2 cents yesterday, right? 20 cents would be just above this measure move, and that to me makes a lot of sense. What if Bitcoin's not at 100K? What if, and I doubt that it's only at 80K by the time that XCN tops off, but let's say it's at, somewhere between 100 and 80K. Let's just put it right at 90K, right there. That would give us an 18-cent price still, right? So the only scenario where I really see XCN stopping at this area or less than 20 cents is if this next move happens exactly as the last one did. If we move up super fast and Bitcoin hasn't caught up yet, because what's going to happen is Bitcoin's going to start to run, and XCN might get a little whiff off of that, but I don't think it's going to, if Bitcoin runs to new all-time highs, I don't think you're just going to keep going. I mean, maybe, I'd be happy if I'm wrong and we go up to 80 cents or a dollar. Man, this could be really better than anybody expects it to be. Um, but I think already going from a price of about 1 cent all the way up to 17 cents, 20 cents is crazy. And it is crazy. But what's crazy is that that's just like the tip of the iceberg. We've got more to go, and likely by the end of May, by the end of June, we'll see dramatically higher prices. All we're waiting for are those target areas that I talked about, right? All we're waiting for or hoping for is that we do end up closing above this high here on a closing period. You don't even need any of the fibs, just close above here. That's a good thing. Ideally, not like right above it, don't just shave it, right? Break through it, but that's a good thing. If we can get above 1.2 cents, that's an even better thing. And more so than that, what we want to show is constructiveness. We want higher highs and higher lows. That's what we want. All the way up until we get to 1.38 cents. That's the golden, or that's the 236 of this overall low to high here. And that would be the nail in the coffin to the bears. That would be the validation we need to provide this as a low. I'm not completely confident that it's the low, but I'm optimistic, and I do believe I see a few scenarios where it could be the low, but it just depends on what happens. If Bitcoin starts falling through the floor right now, if we just start moving down, it's very likely, completely possible, and I would just stick with likely, not even possible. It's likely, or more than possible. It's likely that we would see prices at 0077 to 0072, 0074, something in that area. We'd find support here. That would be the actual low. And at that point, what I would say is that if we move down here, I'd be very confident that that's the low. What's going to take what it's going to take for this confidence of here to be the low is the very simple fact that we just have to show some productivity in the fibs and in the price action before we do that. So I hope I've made my point clear. I hope the message is well received. If you guys like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll be here every single day talking about OnyxCoin until the day I die. Probably not, but until the market ends. Boring times, exciting times, whatever. You guys know I'm here, and yeah, I'm hoping that by the morning, whenever the morning comes, I guess for me the morning, it'd be like late day on OnyxCoin here on crypto's time, but I'm hoping that over the coming hours we'll see a little bit of resolution to the upside. If not, and the price goes down and we don't get that upside expectation, the glass is half empty, it's not half full, and we go lower, that's fine. We have the targets, we know what to expect, and it shouldn't scare you. The move that should scare you is not the downward move. It's the possibility that you could miss the upward move because it doesn't even compare, man. It's not even close, right? This is not worth worrying about. This is what's worth worrying about. We're below 1 cent now. Strong likelihood of seeing some incredible growth after this. I've got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.